From the capital city of Charleston, West Virginia, this is Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis. Inside West Virginia Politics is brought to you by AARP West Virginia, your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inside West Virginia Politics. I'm your host, Mark Curtis. I want to welcome our first guest today, Congressman David McKinley, Republican of West Virginia, Congressman from the 1st Congressional District.
Always good to see you.
This is going to be a fun show because we're going to have your contemporaries on. Alex Mooney will be joining us shortly, and Carol Miller as well. We're going to hear from a Democrat on this show as well, so we'll give it some balance. But let's talk about some things going on. Obviously, the big elephant in the room right now is the impeachment process. The trial's going on in the Senate. All 3 U.S. House members voted against the articles of impeachment when it was in the House. You obviously lost, but why did you vote against it?
Look, we know from history that if you're ever going to use impeachment as a tool, it needs to be bipartisan. It's every other year, every time it's been done. This is the 3rd time that we've had the discussion of impeachment, articles of impeachment. They've always been bipartisan. This was not. And under the Federalist Papers 65, Hamilton and Madison both said, be careful. This is a dangerous tool that you have as impeachment. It should not be a partisan issue. It should be bipartisan. And Nancy Pelosi said before going into it, if we're going to make this bipartisan, then it wasn't. So this isn't the way to do it. If there's a way you have to, if you have a problem with them, we either got the ballot box or you have to be able to get a bipartisan approach to it. We didn't have that. Not one Republican voted for impeachment.
So now it's in the Senate for trial. Republicans have control of the Senate.
Yes.
There's a big squabble about the rules in terms of the hours of debate, the number of witnesses, the depth of the questioning.
Sounds like the same problem we had in the House. When we were trying to get the hours of the rule and have witnesses come, they rejected every one of them. So it's a little bit of, if you're going to say a quid quo pro, it would be the same way around. So the Senate's going to have to deal with the same way we were treated in the House.
Okay. Well, we're going to watch that process as it goes on all week long. There's a lot of other stuff to discuss going on in Washington as well. I want to talk about a bill you are sponsoring from with Carol Miller and Congressman Alex Mooney, and they're going to be in here to talk about it as well. But getting to the bottom of this serious death investigation, the homicides inside the VA Medical Center in Clarksburg. What does your bill do?
Essentially, what we're trying to do is get to the bottom line of how they have to report this information, because up to this point, we've not been able to get it. We know what's happened. We know that the drugs did not come from within. That it looks like someone brought those drugs into the facility. So we need to get to the bottom of it, and I'm afraid that's what we're going to have to do. Is going to have this legislation where we get down to, we really check it out. So we'll see what happens with it. I like working with Mooney and Carol Miller. They're good people to work with because I think they share our passion to try to improve things for our VA. Our veterans deserve better than what they're being treated up there.
I mean, people were essentially murdered. We have a serial killer inside that building. She's gone now. The person of interest has been fired. Folks are going to see all kinds of papers on your desk. You're a congressman that does a lot of homework. You've got a book there called The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels.
Yes.
Why are you reading that? What's your take?
I mean, this is The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels because right now in Washington and across the country, there's a lot of effort to do away with fossil fuels. And they're serious about it. 100% to do away with fossil fuels by the year 2050. Now, that's not that long away from now to think about how we're going to make that transition away to go to renewables and wind, solar, hydro, nuclear. Those are all fine, but don't walk away from our fossil fuels. Fossil fuels, there's a moral case of how it's improved the lives of people all over the world. And we have led the innovation to be able to do those things. I'm afraid if we step back and we stop and walk away from fossil fuels, not only would it crush the economy of West Virginia and other states like Wyoming, 49% of the budget for Wyoming comes from fossil fuels. You do away with fossil fuels, you're going to have another problem here in America.
All right. Speaking of renewable energy, and we're only down to a minute, one of the places you see a lot of wind turbines is near and along Corridor H here in the Mountain State over in the Eastern Panhandle. When are we, there's like 300 wind turbines over there, but when are we going to see completion, and are you getting money this year from Washington to help complete that all-important road to this state?
The answer is yes, there is money for that. It's a question of whether or not it's going to be a priority, because the federal government can only send money. We don't dictate what roads get built. What we do is fund them. We provide the resources so that the governor and the Department of Transportation can determine which roads they want to do. So I'm going to say not only finish Corridor H, which I think is moving in the right direction, but also take 68 from Morgantown over to the Ohio River. Because if we're going to see economic development of the cracker facility, you're going to have east-west transportation out there. We're good on north-south. We don't have east-west. So that 68 has to be extended over there too.
All right. Well, we'll watch for developments, and that could be a fascinating year, 2020, in the nation's capital. We want to thank Republican Congressman David McKinley of the 1st District for being with us. We'll have you back next time you're in town, all right? And we're going to hear from the other members of Congress when we come back. Stay with us on Inside West Virginia Politics.
Now back to Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
And welcome back to Inside West Virginia Politics this weekend, where we are continuing our discussion with our members of Congress in the House of Representatives from West Virginia. Joining us right now is Republican Congresswoman Carol Miller from the 3rd District. Great to have you on the program again. It's been a while.
Nice to be here.
You're just wrapping up your first year in Congress and a lot going on. Obviously, the big thing everybody's talking about is the impeachment process, the trial going on right now in the U.S. Senate. What are your impressions so far? And you, of course, voted against the articles of impeachment. Why?
Absolutely, because it was just ridiculous. He did absolutely nothing that would entail an impeachment. And the fact that our focus for the entire year has been to impeach him, and it was like throwing spaghetti on the wall. Let's see if this worked. No, this didn't work. Then we'll try something else. No, that didn't work. It's all a sham.
I spent an entire year of my life covering Bill Clinton's impeachment in Washington, D.C. from beginning to very end. And the big complaint at the time, and the complaint then was from the Democrats, is the agenda. Nothing else gets done while we're stopped down for impeachment. Your thoughts on that? I mean, what do you got in the hopper you'd like to get past that's kind of hit a speed bump right now?
Well, I'm on transportation and infrastructure, which of course is very important for West Virginia. I have managed to get about $96 million worth of infrastructure money into southern West Virginia at this point, but there's a lot that we need to do.
We're also very busy with this investigation of the VA hospital up in Clarksburg, where we've had 10 suspicious deaths. 3 of them are homicides. You and Congressman McKinley and Congressman Mooney have filed a joint bill, the 3 of you together, demanding more transparency and an opening of the records at VA. Tell us what you think that bill will accomplish if it's approved.
Well, as with many bills, something will pass and it may or may not be paid attention to in the long term. And the most important part of a bill like that is the follow-up and the follow-through. And that's what we need to do at the end, is make sure that they are following up and they are following through with what they need to do.
Well, let's talk about this, because you have a VA in your district in Beckley. There have been some allegations of sexual assault on patients there. We have obviously the homicides at the Clarksburg VA. What's your gut level reaction to the way some of our veterans are being treated in these hospitals?
Well, we owe them much better treatment than that. And of course, I also have one in Huntington as well. But the fact that the light was shown on mistreatment, now we will make sure that nothing like that happens again.
You were part of the congressional hearing into this, the one and only congressional hearing. Do you worry that obviously it shows a spotlight on West Virginia, but not put the state in the best light?
Well, the Huntington VA is the #3 VA in the country. So we also have good examples in West Virginia. You just don't hear about it when we're doing something right.
Well, we did cover the Huntington VA when it was named after Herschel Woody Williams, a wonderful war hero from World War II, a Medal of Honor recipient. He's still going strong at, what, 97? I mean, he could kick my tail.
He probably could.
I know, and so I'm always very kind to him. I flew on a plane with him once. I thought, I'm going to be as nice as I can to Woody Williams. I don't want him to be, get thrown out the window.
I have a resolution that I have been working on since I first got there, that the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from World War II will be allowed to lie in state in the Capitol.
And it may be Woody. There's only, what, a dozen left, right?
There were 4 in January. There are now 2.
Wow. So
1 in Tennessee and Woody.
Wow. Well, we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Woody's a terrific guy. Of course, the commissioning of his ship is coming up soon. We're going to be there in March for that. Talk about some of these transportation projects. What specifically are you trying to get improved in your district with being on the Transportation Committee?
Well, we have King Cole Highway, Coalfields Expressway. We have the Bridge to Nowhere. There are many things that need to be accomplished in southern West Virginia to make sure that we are connected and that it's done in a good way.
What does that do to economic development in your region? I mean, obviously there's an effort to get us to diversify and get away from coal, but these freeways and highways will help the coal industry as well as maybe attract other businesses.
Absolutely, and trucking is a huge industry in West Virginia, so it's vital that we have good highway system. We are within, I can't even remember the number of miles of all the major metropolitan areas that come through.
Yeah.
So it's very important to have good roads.
I got about 30 seconds left. Your dad was a congressman a long time from Columbus, Ohio. What's it like to serve in the same body your father served in? You've been there a year now. Your impressions, thoughts, feelings?
Oh, it's just such an honor. And there are still people like Don Young from Alaska who served with him. It's wonderful. Senator Grassley, I met with him as well because they were friends long ago. But it's an honor to serve West Virginia, and I take my 12 years of experience in the State House there, and it really kind of gave me a leg up on being able to be involved.
Well, we wish you well. We're going to talk to you often as you continue. I know you're running for re-election. We want to thank Congresswoman Carol Miller from the 3rd District here in West Virginia for joining us. We'll have you back again as the year progresses, okay?
Thank you.
We'll have more of Inside West Virginia Politics after this break.
Now back to Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
And we welcome you back to Inside West Virginia Politics, where this weekend we're focused on our congressional delegation. I want to introduce Congressman Alex Mooney. He's the Republican from District 2 here in West Virginia. Great to have you on the show again.
Good to be with you again.
We know you guys are busy in Washington, D.C. We got to address the big elephant in the room right now, the impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate. What are your thoughts? You, of course, voted against the articles of impeachment. What are your impressions so far?
It's a disgrace to our country that the Democrats have put us through this, to be honest with you. I hope the Senate quickly moves on from this so we can get back to the real work that needs to be done in America. But I also hope the Senate gives the president a chance to defend himself. To see, my mother fled a communist country, Cuba, and to see the Congress deny the president the right to face his accuser like we're facing each other now, that's a basic right of the judicial system. You can face your accuser. You can call your own witnesses to defend yourself. To see the president deny those rights in the House impeachment process was outrageous to me.
All right, should he have that opportunity in the Senate? If he wants to call Joe Biden, for example, should he be able to?
Yes, he should be able to call Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. He should be able to call, the Senate really will do it, but in Trump's behalf, they should be able to call this mysterious whistleblower who never testified. He was supposed to testify and he didn't. I think he should be able to defend himself. His legal team is at least there defending himself now, so that's a fair process in the Senate. I'm pleased it's a fair process. Hope they move quickly.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it as this progresses. It may be a week, 2 or 3, but there are other issues we've got to address. You, Congresswoman Miller, and Congresswoman McKinley have introduced a bill targeting the Clarksburg VA, but the VA in general. Obviously, we've had a number of suspicious deaths, in fact, homicides up there. What's your intent with this bill?
So once the process is over, we don't want it kept secret. So the bill that we've put in simply says the families and even the public have a right to know the findings. We want to know what happened, why, where the mistakes were made, and how do we prevent it in the future. So it's a transparency bill. We think that the families deserve that. It was obviously an outrage and horrible what happened. The only thing we can do now is make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, because there were markers along the way. The fact that one person died, a guy was getting better, all of a sudden up and dies the next day, and it raises a lot of red flags. Did they miss a lot of red flags in many of these cases?
They may have, and they may be continuing to miss red flags. So in the investigative process, let's hope they uncover what happened, show us that. Now, if what they show us seems incomplete, at least once they show it, people can ask questions of it. And we can say, hey, you didn't look into this correctly. We don't have enough information. But without our bill, that wouldn't necessarily come out to the public or to the families. So we need to make sure that they're held accountable. And there may be other reforms we need to pass. We pass VA reforms all the time about where to find your best doctor, going across state lines, using private doctors in the local community that may better serve the veteran than the VA system. So we need to look at some reforms that will provide the best health care to our veterans and their families.
All right,
I should mention my father was a captain in Vietnam in the U.S. Army, so this is a very passionate issue for me.
We thank you for your service. My dad was in the Navy in World War II in Korea, and my daughter's in the Army now, so this means a lot to me and most military families here in West Virginia, too. It's a big deal. Let's talk about some other issues on your agenda. You've been in Congress 6 years. I assume you're running for re-election.
I am running, ready filed.
What do you want to get done?
Well, I mean, this year at least we should pass a transportation bill. We've been working on that for a couple years. We just met with the state legislators earlier, and the state has just one budget. The federal level, we pass a budget to plan spending, we authorize spending, then last but not least, we appropriate the money, which is writing the checks to actually spend. Too often we jump to the appropriations part. But we haven't done the appropriations bill yet for transportation, for example. We have some roads being fixed up here in this state. We're a road-heavy state, not a metro state. So part of my job is to make sure transportation funding goes to actually roads and bridges, not being absorbed into New York City or other big cities where they want it for metro.
You've got this interesting district that runs from the west on the Ohio River in Jackson County all the way to the Potomac River on the east in Jefferson County. I know Corridor H is over that eastern panhandle area. Are we going to get some more money? That's got to get finished, right? Yeah, we have the money really authorized to go there. We got to write that last check. They're finishing up the current second to last phase, and then the last phase will start hopefully this year. At least the planning and construction, designing part of that phase. So there's a lot of hope there. That's finally moving forward, we believe. I have a separate bill that can allow unused Appalachian money for that, trade it from other states. So there's a big push here to finally get that finished. Very hopeful about that. We'll see if Virginia jumps in and finishes its portion all the way to I-81. That'll connect the whole thing. We want to thank Congressman Alex Mooney, Republican from the 2nd District here in West Virginia. Good luck heading back to Washington, and I know you're going to be busy, and we welcome you to come back on the show anytime you're in town, okay? Look forward to it. Thank you. All right. We're going to have more Inside West Virginia politics after this break. Stay with us.
Now back to Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
And welcome back to our final segment this week on Inside West Virginia Politics. We're going to switch gears. We had the 3 U.S. House members from West Virginia on the show. Now I want to introduce Delegate Barbara Evans Fleischauer, Democrat of Monongalia County. You're on the Judiciary Committee. You're a busy lady down there at the Capitol. Good to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you, too.
And we are joined by Erin Noon, our one of our digital MNJs or multimedia journalists here at Nexstar Media. And we're going to talk about the insulin bill that you introduced in the House of Delegates. What would it do?
Well, what I have learned is that the price of insulin for people with insurance has skyrocketed. So the rest of us pay $5, $10, $20 a copay. People that are diabetic, and especially type 1s who frequently take more than one kind of insulin, they are paying upwards of $500 a month for their copay. Not their premium, not their test strips, not their syringes, but their copay. And it's just skyrocketed, and people who are type 1 cannot survive without insulin. So for many West Virginians, this is just totally unaffordable, and it's really crazy.
Now, recently, and one of the reasons Erin is here is you sponsored a bus tour to Canada where people who are diabetic went and bought insulin a lot cheaper. Erin, talk about that and why you went along, and give us some perspective.
I went along because, well, I got the press release and I was like, wow, this is interesting. I've heard of other states doing it, but West Virginia was about to do it, and I thought that was interesting. I personally am a type 1 diabetic, so it affects me. And it was so good to see people out there saving money, and we just appreciate you setting this all up. What was that like for you getting this ready? Like, what was the process? And
well, it started because one of my constituents thanked me for sponsoring a bill where a young person died in Ohio, and we have a bill that says if you need an emergency supply of a medication, you can get it. He died when his insulin prescription ran out on New Year's Eve, and she said the real problem is the price of insulin. Colorado has a copay cap bill. Now Illinois does. Virginia has introduced one. Washington State has introduced one. And so one of the things that people have done is they've gotten publicity for this issue, because I never knew anything about it, by going to Canada, because you can pay a tenth of the price in Canada. So I had my vacation scheduled to go to Niagara Falls, and I'm like, we can do this. It's only 4.5 hours from Morgantown. So we started organizing. It was very stressful because we were a little unsure. We weren't positive we were going to get back into the country, because it's kind of like importing drugs, but there's an exception if you have a 3-month supply and you carry it on your person. So we went December 8th, and we came back and everything worked out fine, and we got what we wanted, which is to spread the word about this problem. We have West Virginia is #1 in the country when it comes to diabetes. And we have type 2 and we have type 1, and both of them are affected by this problem.
Yeah, well, Aaron's type 1, I'm a type 2 diabetic. I don't take insulin, I take Trulicity, which is a different type of medication. It's not as expensive, but still, it's expensive. I get discounts through the manufacturer, so that helps a lot. But talk about this. This past week, the legislature, the House of Delegates, voted 99-0 on a bill that would help lower prescription drug prices through the discounts offered by pharmaceutical manufacturers. Do you think there's going to be that kind of bipartisan support for this insulin bill?
I am very pleased that the chair of Health and Human Resources, Jordan Hill, has been working with me on this from the beginning. And we just had a press conference this week to announce that we're going to move forward on this. So yes, I hope it would be 99-1 if we can pass this. It was on the agenda. We're still working on the wording of the bill, but I'm hoping it will move forward next week.
One of the things that you mentioned to me is one of the main reasons you started pushing for this bill is you heard a lot of personal stories. You said that that really kind of hit home for you and you wanted to help the people of West Virginia.
Yeah. Well, the woman who asked me, who said this is really a problem, she has spent $20,000 in 20 years. Including, or wait a minute, $200,000 in 20 years, including $40,000 when she had her baby. Because people who are type 1s, they're at risk when they have a cold. And one of the young people that was at our press conference, he said he just was in the hospital for several days because he had a spike in his sugar. So yeah, I learned a lot about it from her, but lots of other people who went on the bus and who've called me and said, when are you going to Canada again? And we hope if we pass this bill, we won't have to go to Canada.
All right, tell us the bill number so folks can go on wvlegislature.gov and track its progress.
Right. There's one that's HB 4078. There's another one on the Senate side. I think there will be a third one coming out of House Health and Human Resources, which will have a different number. But yeah, they can monitor the bills on the legislative website.
All right, we'll keep on it here on our newscast as well. We want to thank Delegate Barbara Evans Fleisch, Democrat, Monongalia County, for being here, along with Aaron Noon. And we thank you for watching Inside West Virginia Politics this week. Remember, download us from your favorite podcast location. We'll see you back here next week.